Hello, and welcome to Tim's Reflections from Ohio, a YouTube video series where we've been talking about and reflecting on various teachings from the Bible, teachings from Jesus' life, and applying them to our lives today. And today I want to talk about the topic of compromise. And I looked it up to get a definition of compromise. Excuse me. And while it had several definitions given, one that I want to focus on is this: to accept standards that are lower than what is desirable. And I think so often in our lives today, we take this attitude of compromise. We compromise our beliefs as Christians, and we accept something that's a lifestyle, or we accept values that are lower than what we should have. And I want us to focus on a passage in the Bible, and it's found in Luke chapter 23. And we're going to read several verses from this chapter, and these occur the night before Jesus was crucified, and specifically when he was facing Pilate. And we'll begin reading in verse 1, and we'll read through verse 4 at this point. And it says, "Then the whole multitude of them arose and led him to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, 'We found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, saying that he himself is Christ, a king.' Then Pilate asked him, saying, 'Are you the king of the Jews?' Jesus answered him and said, 'It is as you say.' So Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, 'I find no fault in this man.'" At this point, Pilate is telling the people, "I find no fault in this man." Then we'll go over to verse 13 and read through verse 16. It says, "Then Pilate, in the in-between point here, Pilate had sent Jesus to Herod, and Herod sent him back. He didn't see any problems. And Pilate says, then when Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and said to them, 'You have brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And indeed, having examined him in your presence, I have found no fault in this man concerning those things which you accuse him. Neither did Herod. For I sent you back to him, and indeed, nothing deserving of death has been found in him. I will therefore chastise him and release him.'" Now here's where the compromise comes in. He has already said, "I find no fault in him," twice. He sent him to Herod. Herod found no fault in him. But he is saying now, to please the people, he's compromising and saying, "I will therefore chastise him and let him go." If he found no fault in him, there's no reason to chastise him. And then we go down to verse 20, and we'll read through verse 25. "Pilate, therefore, wishing to release Jesus, again called out to them, but they shouted, saying, 'Crucify him, crucify him.' Then he said to them the third time, 'What evil has he done? I have found no reason for death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go.'" So here he is. The third time he said, "I find no fault in him." But here, the second time, he's saying, "I'll chastise him and let him go." But they were insistent, demanding with loud voices that he be crucified, and the voices of the men and the chief priests prevailed. So Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they requested. He released to them the one they requested, who for rebellion and murder had been thrown into prison, but he delivered Jesus to their will. So here he is, releasing a man who was in prison for murder and rebellion, and sending Jesus to be crucified, a man who he himself had admitted 3 separate times, "I find no fault in this man." Now, it's easy for us today to be hard on Pilate, and why would he do that? And think poorly of him because of what he did. It's easy to do that, and Pilate was compromising there. But I want to focus on 4 areas in our lives today where sometimes we are tempted to compromise, and sometimes we begin to compromise. Again, remember that definition: to accept standards that are lower than is desirable. The first area I want us to talk about is here in America, we have our income taxes. And as we're filling out our income taxes, sometimes we're tempted to compromise, to fudge those numbers a little bit. They'll never know, especially if maybe it's self-employment money that we've earned or something of that nature. We want to just fudge those numbers a little bit. The government wastes the money anyway. I need this money. And we start compromising and rationalizing in our mind to why it's okay to do this. The second area is television. Television it can be a powerful medium for sharing the gospel. There's good there, but there's a lot of really, really bad there also. So many of the TV programs today are full of violence and immorality and all of those things. But it's easy to compromise and say, I just need to unwind. I've had a hard day at work. I've had a hard day with the children. I just need to sit down and unwind. Be careful with television. The third area I want us to talk about is music. It's easy to do the same thing with music and to listen to it. And sometimes we're not even paying attention to the words, but they're having an influence on our minds. And that influence can last in our minds for years and years and years. I may have mentioned this in an earlier video. Several years ago, I was in a store looking at books, and I wasn't paying attention. There was music playing over the loudspeaker, and I wasn't paying attention to it. I was busy browsing through the books, and then all of a sudden I caught myself. I was singing along with the song that was being played over the loudspeaker. And it was a song that I had probably not heard or even thought about in 15, 20 years maybe, a long, long time. But I knew all the words still, and I was singing along with it subconsciously. It was still in my mind after all those years. Music has a powerful influence on our minds. We need to be so careful with the music we listen to. And the fourth area I want us to talk about where we compromise sometimes is in our relationships. So often we want to be part of the group, part of the crowd at work. And we sometimes, as if we are Christians, there's some values that we should be upholding, but sometimes we kind of skirt around those values to be accepted by the crowd. Sometimes it's easy to say that, in a dating relationship, a person knows that to become too intimate is wrong as a Christian. But it's easy to say, well, they love me. We're going to get married anyway. And to give in to that, it's so easy to compromise. We need to be so careful. As I've said in earlier videos, the devil just needs a little crack in our lives, in our hearts and our minds, to squeeze himself into with his temptations and with his demons. We need to be so careful that we keep all those doors closed, that we bar all the windows, that we don't compromise. We don't accept standards that are lower than what is desirable. Jesus never compromised. Jesus held to his values all the way through his life on earth, all the way to the cross. He never compromised one time, and we are called to live that same life. So I encourage you today, pray about it. Think about your life. Are you compromising in any areas? Are you accepting standards that are lower than what is desirable as a Christian? Look at Christian values and look at the values maybe in your life or in those that are around you, and close the doors to temptation. Thank you so much for watching the video. We'll leave it there. As always, if you've been blessed, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe so that you'll receive notifications as new videos come out. And once again, your comments are always appreciated. I enjoy reading those. Thank you so much for watching the video. And remember this, God loves you. He loves you so much that he sent his son to die on that cross for you all those years ago so that you and I could have an opportunity to spend eternity with him in heaven one day. Thank you so much. Have a blessed week.